Hey everyone, welcome back to the Female Season Podcast, the podcast where we embrace growth, confidence, and the journey of becoming our best selves together. I'm your host, Ari Bryant, and this is part 2 of my series, What's Really Going On. Last episode, I opened up about clumsiness, something that I've always experienced but never really thought to question. And we looked at what research says about why it happens and how giving ourselves grace can make a big difference. So today I want to talk about something that has been with me for a long time as well. And it just seems to have been getting harder and harder lately, and that's just overstimulation. So first I kind of want to talk about what it actually means. Just when your brain gets more input. So it could be sensory, social, emotional, intellectual. But it's like when your brain gets more input than it can comfortably process. And that can lead to feeling overwhelmed, aggravated, mentally foggy, tired. And there are different types of overstimulation. So it could be sensory, which is lights, noise, touch, smells. It could be emotional, which is strong feelings or conflict. It can be cognitive, intellectual, which is just multitasking, too many thoughts. It could be social, large crowds, people, interactions. And then some people are more sensitive than others. So some people could have like a high sensory processing sensitivity, or, if they're a highly sensitive person, that could be a trait that a lot of people actually share. And studies show that people with higher sensitivity have more frequent and intense overstimulation, especially when fatigued or in a negative mood. And triggers tend to stack up. So triggers tend to stack. A lot of times during the evening is when there is a spike in overstimulation because you've been on all day. And the presence of others or unpleasant sensory input or fatigue or a combination of all those things can be, you can have more of a likelihood to feeling like you want to withdraw. There are different effects on your health and well-being, and it's just overstimulation is correlated with worse mental health, lower vitality, more body pain, and more maladaptive coping, which is avoidance or social withdrawal or self-criticism. It impacts, the quality of life. And there are solutions and ways to manage. So just mindfulness, removing oneself from overstimulating environment, which sometimes could be hard, but, setting boundaries, controlling sensory inputs, rest, lowering demands, recognizing one's trigger. That's the first big step to me. I've had so many moments in my life where I felt overstimulated. And for me, it shows up, as this almost buzzing feeling in my body. Like everything around me is just too much. The noise, the lights, the people, even trying to juggle too many things at once. And honestly, sometimes I just have to step away. And I used to get mad at myself, like, why do I have to step away? I realized that if I stayed and I felt overstimulated, it would be more of a negative outcome. I sometimes like to kind of step away, collect myself, gather my thoughts, and then come back when I feel not so overwhelmed. But, it's not always easy to explain this to others. I think people tend to think that I might be distant or that I just don't want to be around them. But really, it's just about me finding relief. Pulling back, removing myself, and just creating quiet so that I can, reset. So there's actual science behind it. So research says that overstimulation happens when your brain is just taking in more than it can process. And That could be sensory input, like bright lights, like I mentioned earlier, loud sounds, or just too many people talking at once. It could be emotional, like dealing with conflict or just stress, or it could be cognitive. So simply just having too many thoughts, tasks, responsibilities demanding your attention. And a lot of times people are experiencing this at work and they're not even really realizing it. On top of that, you can experience it at work, but also while you're in traffic to get to work, while you're in traffic leaving work. It could be overstimulating at a coffee shop. And a lot of times you're not having a moment to reset because you're on go all day. And the one time you get home, some people have families and then it's like they still don't have a moment to reset. So like I said, needing to pull away doesn't make you weak. It also doesn't make you antisocial. It means that your system's overloaded and that your brain is just asking to rest. A lot of times people tend to think that you're antisocial because you are overstimulated. And I think that in the past, a lot of times that's just something naturally they say, like, oh, she's just antisocial. But instead of labeling people being antisocial or even labeling yourself as that, dig deep and say, okay, what am I doing for people to say I'm antisocial? And if the things that you're doing is similar to a person reacting from being overstimulated, then you're probably overstimulated. So as a woman, or just women in general, I think that we feel this even more. We're often carrying emotional labor, multitasking, making sure everyone else is okay. We're expected to be available, to be social, to say yes when we really want to say no. That constant demand to be on can push us past our limits without us even realizing it. And then suddenly we're crashing in the car after work, hiding in the bathroom at a party, or just feeling like we can't take one more sound, one more question, one more anything. So as far as coping, I'll be honest, I'm still learning how to cope with overstimulation. But here's what I've been trying. So first, I'm trying to recognize my triggers. So for me, sometimes that's crowds. Sometimes it's just when it's too much noise. And even when I'm scrolling too long on my phone, I'm trying to build in breaks. So I let myself step away, even if it's just for 5 minutes in another room. I'm also lowering my demands. I've stopped forcing myself to stay at every event until the end. I'm one of the people, look, I give you that look, let's get up out of here. I can leave literally like after an hour. That may sound bad. Like, I'm not trying to be hanging out for several hours. Like, I came, you seen me, now it's time to go. But I'm trying to work on that. I'm trying to find more of a balance. But yeah, so leaving early, there's nothing wrong with that at all. So like I said, I stopped forcing myself to stay at every event as long as it's going on. To me, self-care, the best self-care is just leaving early. Also, I create quiet moments. So that can mean dimming the lights, turning off notifications, or just breathing with no distractions. That's really important for me, especially for people who live alone. Like at this time, I live alone. So because of that, I'm able to really reset at home. And when you have full access to always reset when you're at home and then you're in public and you don't have that same option, sometimes it could be a little bit difficult to, maneuver being out and about with overstimulation. So I'm trying to find little gestures. And like I said, your job. So if you have a place you can go to or a way to break up things and reset it so that you can be okay. But it's certain things we can't control. Like if you're leaving work and you're coming straight home, but you're in traffic all day, you can't reset while you're in traffic. So sometimes you have to just be overstimulated for the moment, but as soon as you can reset. So here's my challenge for you this week. Notice when you're overstimulated. What's happening around you, what's happening inside of you. And then instead of pushing through, give yourself permission to pause. It might be uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to just putting everyone else first. But I promise you, taking that pause is not selfish. It's really healing. So I want to thank you for joining me for part 2 of what's really going on. If you ever felt like life was just too much, I hope you know now that there are reasons for that feeling and that you are not alone. So the whole point of this series was really going on is for us to dig deeper into things that's going on with us. Instead of just giving it a label, do research and figure out like what's actually going on with you, because it could be an explanation for it. It could be something that you need to do to fix it or to help. And like I said, if I just always said I'm antisocial instead of doing the research and figuring out I'm just overstimulated, I probably would just say, oh, because once you reset, you're able to come out there and mingle and be out there with your friends, and you're probably extroverted. People assume that you're introverted, but you could be very much extroverted after you reset. So I think it's just really important to pay attention to ourselves and to focus on doing the research to learn more about ourselves and things that we're doing. So if this episode resonated with you, share with a friend who might need to hear it, or send me a message. I am on Instagram, and I told you that we also have a private Facebook group, which is Female Season. Season is SZN. As always, this is the Female Season podcast, where we embrace growth, confidence, and the journey of becoming our best selves. And we're doing all this together. So until next time, remember, it's okay to step away, it's okay to pause, and it's okay to protect your peace.